it's always good to see you, but in difficult circumstances, as I fear is so often the case. No court hearing, no attempt to even nod to justice.
No, that's right. It's been a tough weekend. Clearly, we had hopes. Well, did we have hopes? We had a court case at the end of Nazanin's sentence. We got given a new sentence, and then got told we could appeal. We filed that appeal back in the spring, so back in May it went in. So had been lulling ourselves into a sense of false security, as it turned out, that, maybe we'd have a court case and it would be dragged out and, signalling to the UK that, listen, bad stuff will happen to Nazanin if things don't move forwards, but a drawn-out process. Instead, what happened, as you say, is right. She got a phone call from her lawyer to say he'd just been called and the appeals failed. Where that leaves us is that now the next phone call is, say, come to prison, and it would be serve a sentence for a year plus a year's travel ban, and the clock would start at that point. So the past 6 months have been waiting. They don't count towards anything else. So kind of shaken as a family. She was very upset yesterday. Not immediately. It sort of, as the day went on, the shock gave way to anger and worry. And I had a number of phone calls with her about, when she thought she'd be going back into prison. She actually spoke to Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary, who called and said how angry she was that this had happened. And she'd been very clear with Iranians, even last week in New York, that this was a red line and that they shouldn't be putting Nazanin back in prison. It's a threat. They haven't done it yet, but it's a serious threat. And obviously, the question I've been asking the government, and I'll be speaking to Liz Truss later today, is what are they going to do next? What is the response? This is a game of cat and mouse and has been played out very publicly for a long time. The government has, over time, hardened its language and said some quite strident things and been very critical about the, fake judicial process. But talk hasn't been enough to get Nazanin home. Talk hasn't been enough to stop Iran from practicing hostage diplomacy and treating her in this way. So the question is what the government could do next.
Do you sense, and these people because you've worked so desperately hard for your wife for so long now, that the people in Tehran are in any way susceptible to a fresh voice? You've dealt with Boris Johnson being there, Dominic Raab and others being there, but now Liz Truss comes in as a clean pair of hands, as it were, and she knows everything that there is to know about the case and the arms deal and all the row about the money and what have you. But do you sense at all that those folk in Tehran might just say, now is the chance to make a fresh start?
Yeah, maybe. I think there's always a chance of a clean slate with a new person in charge, and we have a new foreign secretary here. There's a new foreign minister in Iran. There's a learning curve as well, and probably our experience is it takes a minister time to get their feel around a brief and to be able to distinguish between what sort of honeyed promises from the Iranian side and then actually what's going on and what's going to happen. But certainly the hope is that she can cut through where her predecessors haven't been able to do so. She's the first female foreign secretary we've had for quite a long time, so that makes a difference in terms of how our case may play out. But it's also clear, I think, and has been clear under her predecessor the last few months, that Iran does want to do a deal. They've been signalling very clearly they want to do a deal with the UK, want to do a deal with the US over prisoners in return for Iranian money that's sitting under sanctions. So that's where things stand. I think there are conversations I have behind closed doors with the government, asking them, well, what is the problem? And also, in policy terms, why does my family need to pay this price? This is not a problem of our making. This is a state-to-state dispute. We shouldn't be in the middle of it. And there's obviously a tension we have both ways. I mean, the Iranian government are clearly the major perpetrators in here and are clearly the major abusers in here and clearly in the wrong. But the UK is failing to protect Nazanin and others. There are a number of British citizens who are being held in this. And we've been going 5.5 years. That's a long time. So you're right. A new person is always a fresh pair of eyes and a fresh chance. And let's hope that works.